Ever walk into a room and just, like, feel the burnout?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
maybe Friday afternoon, everyone's fried, and
Yeah.
suddenly your motivation goes out the window too.
hmm
Today's deep dive is going to make you question if burnout's actually contagious.
It's a question a lot of us have, right? And we're
Mhm.
not just talking about matching bad moods here.
Right.
We're diving into some actual research
Got it?
that suggests negativity might spread
Mhm.
in a surprisingly similar way to how, say, a cold does.
Okay, so hold up. Before we unleash mass panic in every office break room,
Right.
let's get specific.
Yeah.
We're looking at a 2020 study,
Okay.
and get this,
Okay.
it focuses on teachers.
Which, if you think about it, is kind of brilliant. Teaching is already a field known for its emotional demands.
Yeah.
So seeing how burnout plays out there gives us some really interesting clues for other workplaces.
Makes sense. Teachers are dealing with a lot more than just spreadsheets and deadlines.
Right.
But to be clear, we're not just talking about being tired.
Yeah.
What exactly do we mean by burnout in this context?
Right. It's more than just needing another cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout, as defined by this study, hits on 3 levels.
Okay.
The exhaustion, for sure,
Right.
but also feeling emotionally detached and
Yeah.
like you're just not as effective at your job anymore.
So it's this trifecta of
Yeah.
that researchers were measuring in teachers. But how do they go about studying if it actually spreads?
Right.
Did they make teachers swap desks and see who wilted fastest?
Thankfully, no forced burnout experiments.
Okay, good.
This study's fascinating because they went beyond just asking teachers how they felt.
Okay.
They actually mapped out the social networks in 14 different high schools.
Wait, they mapped out who talked to whom?
Yeah,
That's dedication.
it was a big study.
So how does that work?
Basically, they focused on 2 main types of interactions between teachers.
Okay.
The work stuff, like
Okay.
lesson planning or resource sharing, and then the personal support side.
Uh-huh.
Those moments where colleagues offer advice
Yeah.
or just lend an ear.
So think water cooler chats versus co-creating a syllabus.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Mm.
And by tracking all this, they hope to see if certain types of interaction led to more burnout.
Exactly. And their findings are pretty eye-opening.
Okay, lay it on me.
The first thing they discovered is that, yes, burnout does seem to be contagious, especially when both types of interactions, work-related and personal, are happening frequently.
So it's not enough to just be in the same office. You need those deeper connections for the burnout to really flow.
It seems that way,
Okay.
but there's a twist.
Oh.
Not all relationships are created equal when it comes to this contagion effect. The researchers found 3 key factors that made burnout spread more easily.
Hit me with them. I'm suddenly feeling very aware of who I sit next to.
First up is simply how often you interact with someone.
Okay.
The more frequent the contact, the
Yeah.
stronger the tie,
Yeah.
and the easier it is for emotions, good or bad, to transfer.
Okay, that's logical. If you're constantly exposed to someone's negativity, it's bound to rub off eventually.
Yeah.
What's next?
The second factor is a bit of a mouthful. Multiplexity.
Multiplexity.
Basically, it means the relationship serves more than one purpose.
Okay.
Think of that coworker who's not just your cubicle neighbor,
Right.
but also your gym buddy and someone you vent to about your weekend.
Yeah.
Those multifaceted bonds tend to have more influence.
So it's like the difference between someone you just say hi to in the hallway
Right.
versus someone you actually confide in.
Exactly.
Those closer relationships are where burnout really takes hold.
Exactly. And then the third factor, which is a bit less obvious,
Okay.
is called embeddedness.
Embeddedness.
This refers to how many shared connections you have with someone.
Okay.
The more mutual friends or colleagues you have in common,
Right.
the stronger and more influential that relationship becomes.
It's like that 6 degrees of separation
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
But for burnout,
Yeah.
you're telling me the more tightly woven our social circles are,
Yeah.
the faster negativity spreads.
That's what the research suggests.
Wow.
And to really drive home how impactful these close ties are,
Okay.
the study found that burnout spreads significantly more easily through those strong relationships.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. This isn't just a temporary thing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you telling me there's a burnout hangover
Okay.
even after you've, like, left the party?
It's not quite that dramatic.
Okay.
But the study did find some long-lasting effects.
Okay.
Remember how they meticulously tracked all those teachers?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't stop there.
Oh, no.
They followed up 2 years later.
2 years. I'm both impressed and slightly terrified by that level of research commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
But it gave them some incredible insights.
Okay.
Turns out that contagious emotional exhaustion,
Uh-huh.
that feeling of being completely wrung out,
Yeah.
it was still measurable even after 2 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So even if you change jobs, cities, even continents, that burnout feeling could stick around.
That's what they found.
Okay, this is getting serious.
Yeah.
We need a so what moment here.
Oh, okay.
This wasn't just a study on, like, isolated hermits.
Yeah.
These were teachers
Yeah.
interacting with each other and students all day.
Right.
What does this mean for the rest of us out here navigating our own work and friend groups?
You're right to bring it back to that. Because whether we realize it or not, we're all part of these emotional ecosystems.
Okay.
Think about your own workplace, even if it's not a school.
Okay.
Do you have those colleagues whose energy,
Yeah.
for better or worse,
Yeah.
seems to influence everyone?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There's always that one person whose stress level is like a beacon, right?
Yeah, totally.
But I'm also thinking about the flip side.
Okay.
Like, I know if I spend too much time with that friend who's perpetually grumpy,
Yeah.
I start to feel a bit gloomy too.
Right.
Is that the same thing happening?
It's definitely possible.
Okay.
And what this research drives home is that it's not just about our individual resilience.
Right.
It's about recognizing the collective emotional environment we're a part of. But this is where some people might say, wait, I thought venting to coworkers was a good thing.
Yeah. Isn't that like classic stress relief?
Right.
Complain about the boss over coffee.
Yep.
Feel a bit better.
Oh.
Move on with your day.
There's a fine line.
Okay.
And the study actually addresses this.
Okay.
They found that while supportive venting can be helpful,
Right.
there's a difference between that and what they call co-rumination.
Co-rumination.
Ugh.
Okay, suddenly I'm picturing cows and their multiple stomachs.
Right.
What's that got to do with burnout?
Think of it like this. Co-rumination is when you're constantly rehashing negative stuff with a colleague or friend,
Right.
but without actually trying to find solutions
Right.
or put a more positive spin on things.
Yeah.
You're basically marinating in negativity.
So picture this. It's Monday morning. Your inbox is already overflowing.
Ugh.
And you and your work bestie just launch into a back and forth about how awful everything is.
Right.
You're both just piling on complaints.
Yeah.
And suddenly, that second cup of coffee isn't even helping anymore.
That's co-rumination in action.
Oh, okay.
And surprisingly, the study suggests that while it might feel good in the moment to commiserate,
Yeah.
it could actually make that feeling of burnout worse in the long run.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because it seems totally counterintuitive.
Right.
Don't we always feel better after a good vent session with someone who gets it?
Sometimes, for sure.
Yeah.
But the key difference is whether you're actively trying to move towards a solution
Okay.
or reframe the negativity. If you're simply dwelling on the same complaints without any attempt to shift your perspective or take action,
Right.
it can actually amplify those feelings of helplessness and cynicism that are hallmarks of burnout.
So it's the difference between saying, ugh, this project is impossible,
Mm-hmm.
versus, ooh, this project is tough, but I'm going to break it down into smaller chunks and ask for help if I need it.
Exactly.
One is just wallowing,
Right.
and the other is actually trying to do something about it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a passive state of complaint to a more active approach.
Without even necessarily joining in,
Right.
could still be dragging us down.
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
And think about those 3 factors we talked about earlier.
Sure.
Frequency, multiplexity, and embeddedness.
Right.
The closer and more frequent your interactions with someone who's constantly negative,
Yeah.
the more susceptible you might be to that burnout contagion.
This is making me really rethink some of my conversational habits.
Yeah.
But before we all swear off complaining forever,
Right.
I'm curious about something.
Okay.
If negativity can spread like a virus,
Yeah.
what about positivity?
Right.
Can we actually catch enthusiasm and resilience
Yeah.
for the people around us too?
Yeah.
So we've been talking about burnout spreading like wildfire,
Right.
but what about an upward spiral of good vibes?
Yes.
Can we actually catch enthusiasm and resilience from the people around us too?
Here's the good news.
Okay.
It seems highly likely.
Right.
While this particular study focused on how negativity spreads,
Right.
there's a whole other area of research exploring the phenomenon of positive emotional contagion.
Okay, so instead of doom scrolling with our work buddies,
Right.
We should be swapping success stories and words of encouragement.
Exactly.
Sign me up for that team building exercise.
Right. And it makes intuitive sense.
Yeah.
Think about a time when you witnessed someone genuinely excited about their work,
Yeah?
or a friend shared some good news that totally lifted your spirits.
Yeah.
Those positive emotions can be just as contagious as the negative ones.
I'm starting to think we need to rebrand this whole episode.
Uh-huh.
Forget burnout contagion. Let's call it in the emotional butterfly effect.
I love that.
Yeah.
It really highlights how even small, seemingly insignificant interactions
Yeah.
can have a ripple effect on our own well-being
Right.
and the well-being of those around us.
This is giving me hope.
What?
So if we're intentional about cultivating those positive connections,
Yeah.
surrounding ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us,
Right.
could that actually act as a buffer against burnout?
That's exactly what the research suggests.
Mhm.
And it goes back to those 3 factors we discussed earlier.
Okay.
Frequency, multiplexity, and embeddedness.
Right.
Building strong, supportive relationships, both at work and in our personal lives,
Right.
can create a network of resilience.
Yeah.
A safety net that can catch us when we're feeling depleted.
So instead of just focusing on individual stress reduction techniques,
Right.
we should also be investing in our social capital as a way to combat burnout.
Precisely. It's not just about our individual resilience.
Right.
It's about fostering a collective sense of well-being,
Okay.
a culture of support where we feel comfortable sharing both our struggles and our triumphs.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've gone from viral burnout to emotional ecosystems to the butterfly effect.
Break it.
It seems like the key takeaway here is that we're not just isolated individuals battling burnout in a vacuum.
Right?
We're part of an interconnected web of emotions.
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful realization.
Yeah.
It reminds us that investing in our relationships isn't just good for our social lives. It's essential for our mental and emotional well-being, both individually and collectively.
Listeners, as we wrap up, here's a final thought experiment for you.
Okay.
What if we all made a conscious effort to spread a little more positivity today? A kind word to a colleague, a message of encouragement to a friend, a genuine expression of gratitude to someone who made your day a little brighter.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of ripple effect that might create?
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the surprisingly contagious nature of burnout.
Okay.
We'll be back next week with another intriguing topic and a fresh stack of sources to explore.
Sounds good.
Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and remember, a rising tide lifts all boats.